currently a residence director for the Bard Academy at Bard College at Simon's Rock in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. As an alum of Bard Queens in 2015 and recent graduate this year of Bard College, another reason to celebrate. Bringing nature and anthropology and concentrated in global public health, he has been a part of the Smart Scholars program for the last 5 years. This will be his sixth. And he has been in the program as a volunteer, as a mentor, as a teaching assistant, and as a science faculty. Mark credits his experience working with the students of the Smart Scholars program as one of the defining reasons as to why he loves working with adolescents in the classroom, and for why he wants to become a teacher. Please don't ruin that for him, because we need it. Let us please give a thunderous applause and standing ovation for Mark Williams Jr.
This is fancy. Hello guys, how are you?
Amazing.
Okay, I see why he's up here yelling at you guys. Look, what is this energy right now, people? Come on. How are you doing? Good. Here we go. I like that. See, now I gotta get people pop quizzes on their first date. Oh,
Y'all better be careful with that.
very. Okay, so look this here. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, solid. So first, I want to thank Jeff for that really great introduction, and thank you all for the wonderful round of applause and standing ovation. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to begin by telling you guys that usually when I teach the BSEC Queens, I have to teach health class. And at the very beginning, when I meet the ninth graders for the first time, I actually congratulate them. So at the start of my classes, I usually congratulate all of the students because they have just achieved a very notable milestone. They got into BSEC. And so I want to right now congratulate you all. I want you all to give yourself a round of applause for getting into BSEC. Now, I tell them that it is actually much harder to get into BSEC than it is to get into Yale and many other Ivies and top liberal arts colleges in the country. Now, this is in fact true. Our acceptance rate is lower than Yale's. It is more difficult to get into this school than it is to get into many Ivy League institutions. So again, give yourself a round of applause. Now, with only 150 to 180 seats available and over 4,000 applicants vying for a spot, at the age of 13 years old, you participated in an elite admissions game where your personal attributes have been scrutinized, ranked, and filed, and compared against those of your peers, all in the name of achieving a reputable and quality secondary education. Now, the admissions process, while better than a lot of others that exist, is still quite brutal. I'm sure you remember it. You had to look through the big, thick book with like 4,000 schools in it, and then you had to go to the Bronx, not Bronx, it was the Brooklyn Tech Fair, and it was really hot and nasty. You had to come here on a Saturday, probably couldn't watch cartoons in the morning, so you had to come take a math test, you didn't really know how to do a fraction right, and you had to come talk to some random white guy who interviewed you probably, right? Like it's awful, it's all awful. Right, so you went through this process, and again, it was brutal. And I say this because I've been a part of the ritual to get into BSEC myself. And I've also played a role in recruiting students, interviewing them, and convincing them that this is where they want to spend the next 4 years. At this stage, I've done maybe over 100 interviews over my relatively short time of interviewing, and I've seen students over the finish line. However, there's 2 interviews that I will never forget, all that happened within the same day. It was about 2:30 in the afternoon on what was either Thursday or Friday. Interviews were scheduled back-to-back, non-stop, and I was on a roll. I met with some spectacular students and some not-so-great ones who frankly really shouldn't go to high school. And I had just come out of an interview with a student who spoke 3 languages, had a film entered in a youth version of the Tribeca Film Festival, and spoke to me quite eloquently about the perils of democracy as a political system. He was 13. The student was clearly an excellent scholar, But I had doubts. Now, this may come as a surprise to you, but it's very important for you to know. No matter how spectacular you are, it is always possible, depending on the circumstances, that doubts can crop up about you. In this case, I was thinking about the fact that this young scholar didn't know anything about BSEC. He knew not a single thing. When I asked him if he'd ever heard of us, he said, "No, not really, you guys just seem like a great school." And I said, "Oh, that's great." Honestly, he could get in anywhere he wanted with the grades, extracurriculars, and personal attributes that he had. But I was stuck. On a scale of 1 to 5, I had to think, should I give him a 5 or should I give him a 3? Before I could decide, a young man of color, clear Latinx descent, came running up to me asking if I knew where the bathroom was. I pointed across the hall and told him right there. I walked into the admissions office to grab the next folder for an interview, and when I came out, I called the name of the student who didn't respond. I waited a few minutes, called again, and I heard, "That's me, sir." It was a student who I told where the bathroom was. This time, however, he was in a suit a little too big for his fit, and he was no longer panting, but smiling and ready to go. I asked him, "What's your name?" He told me where he was from, where he was coming from, and then we walked to the office where I interviewed what happened. When I looked at his report card, I noticed that his grades didn't quite meet the cut, but his teachers had nothing but kind words to say about him anyway. They really had all the wonderful things to say about him. Great scholar, tries his hardest. You can really tell that he wants to succeed. Always out there asking for help. Is always willing to lend a helping hand. When I asked him about it, he told me about how he has to help take care of his mother because his father was away. Sensing what he meant by away, I told him that it was all right. I asked if he had any siblings, and he said his brother is too busy since he dropped out of school to come back home and help out. And so I empathized with him, and he had to worry about being the man of the house when there were no other men to help him around to grow in the way that he needed. I asked him what he wanted to do when he grew up, and he said that he was stuck between wanting to be an aerospace engineer like his brother and a philosophy professor. I laughed when I told him that those were two very different routes. And his smile filled the room with brightness, and he said, "Honestly, I could do both. One to pay the bills, and the other to make me happy." I told him philosophy is definitely going to pay the bills. By that point in our conversation, I forgot to ask him why he wanted to come to BSEC. I extended his interview time because I was enjoying the very real and very pure vibes that he was giving off, and I wanted to know more about his life. Many students don't do their homework about BSEC. They don't know it's early college. They don't know that at the end of 4 years of get an associate's degree and graduate their high school diploma. They don't know that they only do 2 years of high school and they don't do the last 2 years. They don't know that their professors are actually college professors. They just don't know a lot of things that you expect them to know. This student, however, he knew we were in early college. He knew that he could get an associate's degree in liberal arts after 2 years. He knew that he could take history and philosophy of religion, introduction to engineering, along with physics with calculus 1 and 2, Latin, Greek drama, political ideas, and something that he had never heard of but what sounded cool to him called cultural anthropology. All of these courses, I asked? You know all of these courses? And you want to take all of them? Physics with calculus? I tried. Really? Physics? I asked, remembering that his math scores weren't that great. "Oh yeah, I'll need to be distracted. And I'm trying to leave and go away, so I gotta take all of them." "Where are you trying to go?" I asked. "You all need, so I can finish school, and my mom and brother can be proud of me." "Why you all need?" "That's where he went, my brother, but he didn't finish. I want to make them proud, and I don't want to be trapped in the hood." Oh man, I thought, this really could be his only option. Our interview came to an end, and he thanked me, and I thanked him. Just as quickly as he came in, he went. And I asked him, Why was he taking his watch off? He said he couldn't go back through his hood looking this nice. I asked him if he would be in danger of getting robbed, and his answer was no. People will ask me where I was, and if I tell them, they'll make fun of me for wanting to leave. Here I was at the end of the interview. Should I give him a 5, or should I give him a 3? Now, what does this story have to do with you, you're probably wondering? Well, I gave one of the scholars a 3, and the other boy a 5. When I arrived in the fall, the person I gave a 3 to was enrolled, and the scholar whom I gave a 5 to was not. I thought that if I had given the young man from the Bronx a fighting chance for 5, the powers that be would let him in. I was wrong. He didn't get a seat at PISA. I tell you this story because this is the first time that I came up against the question of equity. I was forced to make a decision that could determine the course of a scholar's life. Was it fair that I had given a very successful student a 3, and a student who on paper should have gotten that score of 5? BSEC needed the 5-star scholar, and he needed us. But that's not how it shook out anyway. When I asked others about this question, I was told at least I had it in me to fight for my own equity on my own terms. But what did that mean? I guess what I'm trying to say here is that at times you will be faced with moments where the rules may seem like the right thing, but in fact they are not. You will need to find it within yourself to do something about it. We live in a moment where you can no longer afford to, despite your age, stand idly by and not say something, act up, protest, question, or destroy things. So when I hear, is it in you? I think about this story because it was the first time that I stood up for equity, and I found it within myself to do something despite a negative result. And if anything, what this shows us is that sometimes the outcome we want is not the outcome we will get. But it is better to have done something than to have done nothing. You must find it within yourself to stick up for others, to question your teachers, including myself, to take your principal and administrators to task when you recognize that they are not holding themselves accountable to the needs of their community. You owe it to the young man who didn't get a spot in BSEC, despite the fact that he deserved it way more than some others who only attend the school because it will look good for college. Remember the students who are not privileged like yourself to say that they are about to receive an elite education. It is you, it is in you to honor their existence by being the best student you can be. Remember them every time you complain about your readings. Think about quitting or giving up. Make empty criticisms or feel the need to skip class and goof off with your friends. Trust me, it won't feel good. I should know. I repeated my 9th grade year at BSEC meetings because I didn't have it in me to be the student that I needed to be the student that the boy from the Bronx would definitely have been. So I leave you with a simple phrase before we leave for some more festivities. Is it in you?